And my first question is, what is you mentioned that the how technology unleashes our potential. And I think just recently, there's kind of like this new revolution of like technology that is essentially making the world smaller. You're in Amsterdam, I'm in Utah making this call. And I don't think pre-COVID, I don't think the video chat technology was reliable enough to do this. And so the world's definitely smaller. What is kind of your perspective on global companies and remote work now that technology is actually allowing us to express ourselves pretty limitlessly, like agnostic of location?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been the potential of it has been around for a long time. And I guess the sort of the front lines of that for a long time now has been sort of like digital nomads or people that are sort of pushing the bounds of remote. And you have these sort of early adopters. But the dream, I think, early on, once you started to really collaborate and the majority of your work started happening on computers and software and collaboration tools, this idea of really being able to sort of work across cities and with people, even just with people on different floors in the same building and different people working from home and with people in the office, people working between states, people working between countries. And this idea of, okay, what is the real value of an office place if the vast majority of our work is being taken place and productive time is spent on a computer? And then just the speed of sort of mode switching and conversation switching and sourcing diverse and different ideas, that becomes exponential when you collaborate virtually versus having to physically share space with people. And so I think the potential of that always has been compelling. But to your point, the technology hasn't really been there. And I think people are with their ideas and then the physical hardware and then the technology and the software and the tools end up needing to catch up. It's sort of like that sort of sci-fi phenomenon where you have a bunch of things watching like cartoons and a Minority Report and all these like movies and stuff like that. And they sort of paint a picture and a vision, and art sort of is great at that. And then eventually sort of like the world starts to try and dream about these things and people start building those things. And eventually we get something like that and catching up. And I feel like there's a specific point that we're at. Obviously, COVID and the pandemic sort of pushed a bunch of people off the ledge, that were sort of standing on the ledge. But I feel like there is fundamentally a huge trial period in the test, and it sort of pushed things forward several years. And I think we're definitely at a point where we really need to start thinking about, okay, let's say if offices are somewhat outdated, right? And they're holding us back in certain different ways. It's not so much a conversation of comparing working together versus working from home or working virtually. It's more a matter of how do we do this well? Because I think it's sort of like it feels like a dumb conversation that's happening right now, which is, okay, there's a bunch of people arguing that working from home is terrible, and
Yeah.
then a bunch of people arguing that remote is great. But the truth is, it's a much more nuanced conversation. I mean,
Yeah.
fundamentally, if a company's not willing to do remote well, it's probably a really bad choice, right? Because the company and the organization and the hierarchy and the structure of how you collaborate isn't built around remote. And I think there are huge benefits to unlock with remote. But if the company is unwilling to make those changes and orient themselves around that, that's why the stats are so mixed. And there's cases on both sides of this. I think the truth is much more nuanced, and companies really need to embrace it in a sense that they need to reorganize and optimize for this new environment if they want to actually reap some of those benefits.
Yeah.